Hello, everybody, and thank you so very much for coming to our first event. I really am delighted. I would love to take you through the research. So for the last 7 years, Sarah, Deborah, and colleagues who are all in the T-shirts and I have been really spending a lot of time trying to work out what do we mean by strengths. And what I would say is that I think we all agree that strengths are here to stay as a concept. I don't think I'm here to convince you to take a strengths approach or that strengths should be part of the way in which you assess, develop and retain talent. I think most organisations, actually over 70% of organisations, are now using strengths as part of their talent assessment methods. But actually, my question is, how can we continue to use strengths in this VUCA world, in this volatile, unpredictable, complex and ambiguous world in which we work? The pace, the demands of the world has changed, actually. So how can we possibly identify our strengths and use our strengths to the best of our ability when actually the day sometimes just gets in the way? We're so busy running. We're so busy just firefighting. I'm a coach and I work with so many people who just literally get to the end of the day depleted. They talk about experiencing low emotions, feeling exhausted, feeling anxious, feeling low, because they've used up all of their reserves by the end of the day. And when we talk about it, they know what their strengths are. They've identified their strengths. We've worked with them to help them understand what energizes them, what makes them great. But they haven't been able to pull on those things because they've spent the whole day fighting, the whole day just literally dealing with one challenge to the next. So what I wanted to do today was really focus on the strengths revolution. There will be a piece that I'm going to talk about, which is what are strengths, where have they come from, and what are they? But then I really would like to focus on that interaction between strengths, resilience, and well-being. Because for us, we've really identified that there's a really important link. Now, Sarah and I have been doing a whole load of senior exec assessments for a number of clients around the world. And we've been seeing an amazing link between strengths and resilience and the propensity for people to derail. So if people don't necessarily have the resilience, even if they identify their strengths and they're using their strengths, if they don't have the resilience, what we're seeing is people potentially derailing. And they're overusing their strengths, or they're just not maximising their potential. They're not realising their potential. So let's take a step back then. So what are strengths? Strengths are the things that energise us. They're the things that we practice and we become good at, and ultimately, we hope we become great at. And we can use our strengths to identify our objectives. It's really interesting. I had a great chat with a potential client yesterday who I literally invited to come here at 5 o'clock yesterday, but I don't think he's in the room, who speculatively approached us for some work. And we had this brilliant debate about whether potential exists. And he said he's just written a paper that potential doesn't exist. Actually, one of the things that I'm really interested in is the difference between potential and talent. So for me, everybody is talented. All of you in this room are talented because you've all got strengths. And our methodology will help you identify what those strengths are. But if, for example, we were recruiting the CHRO of a major blue chip organisation, only a few of us might have the right fit, the right potential for that job, albeit that we are all talented and we all have strengths. And so for me, strengths help us understand the difference between talent and potential. Because potential, as I say, it's about whether you've got the right combination of skills, emotional intelligence, aspirations for the future, for that organisation to drive success. But strengths are about what make you great. It may not be great for that organisation, but it could be great for another. So 73% of organisations are now using a strengths-based approach. We interviewed FTSE 100 and Fortune 100 organisations. Many of you are actually in the room, so I appreciate your support with the research that we've been doing over the years. And I'm nodding at the few who have actually contributed, so thank you very much. 73% of those organisations are using strengths. Now, they may not be using a product, but they're certainly changing the way they think about strengths. I, for example, worked with a major retail bank for 9 years, and Sarah and I ran this contract for 9 years, and we used average as our first cut-off for recruitment for their graduate population. Now, for me, that just seems to be bonkers on reflection, that we had a 5-point rating scale from 5 to 1, and we used 3 as our cut-off. So our very first statement was, is this person at least average to hire into this organisation? But actually, what we want to do is we want to hire people who have got really outstanding strengths, because people who have got strengths and are given the opportunity to realise them are more productive, more effective with customers, and more engaged. And this is the Gallup research with 20,000 organisations. Their sample's a little bit larger than ours. So the concept behind it is Spikey. So has everyone heard of a Spikey leader here? The idea that individuals who are outstanding have extreme strengths that are really going to be notable for them, that are really recognisable for those individuals. But they also have gaps. They have allowable weaknesses. Some may not be allowable, of course. And the question is, if they have got a gap, can you manage that gap? Do you have that strength somewhere else in the team or in the organisation to complement? I stole this image from Facebook. It's amazing what you can get on Facebook these days. But I think if you can read it, it really helps to depict why the strengths model really works. So the idea behind strengths is really, it's about what makes you unique. When we're assessing for talent and potential, what we do is we look to see whether somebody's got fit in terms of their values, whether they can do the job in terms of their behaviour and their skills, whether they've got the right aspirations for the future, and whether they've got the right intelligence, their emotional, social and cognitive intelligence is the right fit. But the icing on the cake for me is the strengths, because the strengths is about what motivates and drives somebody. And if we're going to be energised by something and we practice something, we're going to get great at it. And if I want someone in the business who's innovative and dynamic and disruptive, I really want someone who's got strengths in that area, not just skills, not that they can do it, but they love it. And so strengths are the things that you love. So we looked at 303 specifically, I remember my numbers, executives to look at what are the most common strengths out of our 30 strengths from our products. So we have 3 strengths questionnaires. We have the strengths cards, the strengths questionnaire, and then the strengths 360. But this was assessed using the questionnaire. And we found 7 top strengths. And Sarah and I debated this last night over a vodka. What comes first? Are these strengths the most common strengths for these top executives? So these are C-suite and C-suite -1, because of what the world demands of them? Or is it that these individuals demonstrate these strengths because they're naturally energised by them? And that was the debate we were having. Because strengths are not a trait. They're not a state either. So trait being personality, state being emotional intelligence. For me, they're somewhere in the middle. They're actually something that can change and evolve over time as we become motivated and energised by new environments. So my question I pose to each of us is, are the strengths of these 303 top exec global leaders a result of the environment or the result of who they are? And one I don't have the answer to. I need to go and ask all 303 now. I mentioned VUCA. We do work in a really complex world. Every day we have competing demands, and every day the world asks something different of us. And so we have to really draw on something special in order to get through the day. We have to have resilience. We're striving for well-being. It's amazing with our values product how many of the top business leaders, the CEOs, in fact, what the CEO, interestingly, of Flex Global, who's David's company, actually listed well-being as one of his top values. And sometimes there's shock in organisations when CEOs are saying, actually, I choose work-life balance, or I choose well-being as one of my important values. But actually what we're seeing is organisations saying, actually, we want to focus on something a little bit different. Our research has identified that to drive success in this VUCA world, we need diversity. We know that. And diversity comes from strengths. Cultural fit comes from values. So we can create unity and consistency through everybody having the same thing in common through their values. But actually, we drive success within teams through diversity. And I don't necessarily just mean diversity through protected characteristics. I actually mean diversity in terms of the way we think. So it's one of the board members of Apple who said that 10 blonde-haired, blue-eyed men could be as diverse as any other population. She actually had to apologise for saying that because she publicly said that in a letter out to the board. And she apologised, but I agreed with her because for me, I don't think it's necessarily about the colour of our skin or our gender or our age, albeit I'm now in the top category for the age. Actually, for me, a lot of it is about how we think. So we decided to put that to the test. And actually, we've done quite a lot of research looking at the difference between genders, for example. And we found as individuals get older, we're starting to see that the gender difference play less of a part. So we did a piece of research with 40 CEOs. We have some CEO women who are in that research, so thank you very much for being here. And what we did is we looked at how those women actually differed from men. And we found that many of the females were really not significantly different in terms of their strengths or in terms of the way they made their decisions. The big difference is generation. Actually, the way different generations think and the strengths that they pull in at work are significantly different. So the younger generations are striving, achieving, competitive. They're three of our strengths. And the older generation, therefore, less so. The younger generation are more composed and prepared to take risks, so they're resilient. The older generation, not prepared to take risks or as composed. The younger generation, which is obviously you guys because you're here today, are more prepared to network and to engage with others and actually focus on other people's needs, so compassion, and they're more meticulous, evaluative and methodical. The older generation are only 3 of them, more positive, articulate and modest. And interesting, modest is the lowest of all 30 strengths. It's the one that's rated the least out of all of them consistently. There was also a theme that the younger generation are more prepared to say yes. There's social desirability issues in there. They're energized, they're excited, where the older generation are like, yeah, maybe. It's a more central tendency. But for me, the point of this, and we did a lovely piece of research with decision styles, which is just going to be published in the ADA, Assessment and Development Matters. Actually, generations are showing that actually diversity in generations and bringing teams together of people from different generations and different levels is critical for creative thinking and diverse thought. So whilst there might be more conflict, actually the innovation that comes from bringing teams together, of generational teams together, rather than just bringing in teams with gender differences, that's the real key. I've added this because it's my favourite quote from a piece of research we did on winning attitude, which is how I met Goldie. At work, we meet energy givers, the radiators who bring joy to work, and the energy drains who suck the life out of you. How many of you have worked with energy givers who you get excited to work with and enjoy being with? May I see a show of hands? Okay, I think that was pretty much everybody. Has anybody ever worked with an energy drain? I'm hoping we're not in the room. And you just know, you get to the point in the day, you just think, oh my goodness, that combination just doesn't work. And so that's why diversity is so key as well, because actually we get energized by people who are very different to ourselves. And so the key is to work out who are the energy givers and who are the energy drains. So I love Mary Poppins. And the idea behind this slide is that every day, each of us are trying to be something special. We try our hardest. We go into work and do the best we can. We make the best decisions we can. we're as resilient as we possibly can. We go into each meeting, think I'm going to do the best I can in this meeting. We don't go in and think, oh, I can't be asked. I genuinely believe people make an effort and they try their hardest within their personal reserve. But the reality is none of us are really truly Mary Poppins. None of us have all 30 strengths. So actually what we need to do is work out what is really key to us. Now, my big bugbear about some of our competitors is when they go into organisations and they say, of the 30 strengths, these are the 10 you need to drive success in your organisation, because actually you need all 30. But you can't have all 30 within one person. You have to therefore have it within the whole team. So what is the link with demands and pace and resilience? For me, it's about really understanding what the person's triggers are that are going to help us understand why they might derail. So we've done a new piece of research following all the senior leader assessments we've done around the world to identify the 9 predictors of derailment. So my PhD, many, many moons ago when I was at Birkbeck, was looking at well-being, type A behaviour and the NEO, so the big 5. And actually, for the first time, I dusted it off. I think in 15, 20 years, I dusted it off and have started using some of that research in this piece here today. So we've identified 9 predictors of well-being. And that's our new product that we'll soon be launching, which is the Strengths Plus tool. So it's predominantly for leaders and exec. So the standard Strengths tool assesses the 30 strengths, but now our Strengths Plus tool also looks at 9 elements of resilience and well-being. And the research behind it is indicating that if you score low on 1 or 2 of these areas, so for example, if you're anxious and depressed and you're experiencing those emotions, then you're more likely to derail. You're more likely to overuse your strengths. For example, if you're meticulous, you can't let go of the detail. Or if you're confident, in Hogan terms, you might become arrogant. Or you might underuse them. You just can't draw those strengths out from yourself. You're just not making the best of yourself. And each day you end up feeling quite low in terms of your emotions. I read a brilliant article about fatal flaws recently, and so I blogged it, from Harvard, that a third of leaders who have significant strengths, and so therefore at the top of their game, also have fatal flaws. And a fatal flaw is a weakness so extreme that it can completely disrupt their career. And this quote, for me, absolutely depicts it, and I completely stole it from them. And for me, I find that really interesting because we talk about allowable weaknesses, but actually a fatal flaw is something else where we just can't see it because the emotional intelligence is just not there. The social awareness, the emotional awareness, you just don't even understand that that thing is even feasible or possible or should be present. So we thought we'd show you the least preferred strengths. I've already told you number 30 is modest, but I found it quite interesting that 2 of these are areas of social intelligence, so compassion and attentive, because it's about being attentive to other people's needs and being able to read their body language. But also modest, which could potentially be an area of emotional intelligence. But initiator and achiever is about getting things started. And so these are the least preferred strengths that we're seeing. Again, is that a product of the society of work, the future of work that we're in? Or is that because people are genuinely just not energized, not excited by demonstrating these things? So it's really important, actually. We found, and we've done a piece of research that actually, and through our winning attitude research, that actually failing is key to success. You need to fail to succeed. Because in order to really win, as Goldie has, and as others I'm sure in the room, we've all at some point failed. And Sarah and I were reflecting on the leaders that we've interviewed, that actually all of them have got a story at some point in their careers where it has just not gone to plan, that they've tried their hardest, but they just haven't succeeded. But it was learning from that that really makes a difference. I really wanted to finish with, for me, I think strengths are the glitter. We sprinkle it on our assessment processes and our methodologies. The clients love it, the candidates love it. It's a great experience. The conversation is so extremely positive. But actually, the 2 together with the glue, which are the values, which is about what binds people together and gives people purpose, it really helps us to identify and understand what talent means for organisations. So for me, it's understanding the glue, the values, the glitter, the strengths, if we want to hire for fit and for diversity. Because actually, I think that both are really key for success in the future, and we shouldn't just focus on one or the other. That's it, folks. Thank you very much.